Do you have any additional?
Nothing other than to generally support some tightening of the attendance policy. Exactly what that looks like, I'm not certain. I think that two consecutive kicked off of this board, two consecutive.
Unexcused.
Well, yeah. Unexcused.
Bob, if you can make sure you're talking into the mic.
I'm sorry.
It is working right now.
I think that's a bit harsh because it certainly doesn't. Well, they would have to, if they're unexcused, it raises a question as to who makes that determination. Is that the chair's determination as to whether an absence is excused or unexcused? And then what is the list of criteria upon which the chair makes that decision? So that would all have to be worked out. Unless you just want to say an absence is an absence is an absence. And you're not here, it doesn't matter whether you're excused or not excused, you're just not here. And if you do that for more than two consecutive times, we're going to invite you to leave.
Okay. I agree in essence with, I think, what everyone is saying. I'd like clarification. If swearing in is somewhere else in the ordinance and we confirm that, then I don't see any need to put it in ours. My suggestion would be to put the clause about, let's see, about attendance. How do they word it? I like the way that they word it.
One of the towns has in there.
Yeah.
Take the office too.
Sandy highlighted it in a helpful way. I appreciate that. I think that faithful attendance at the meeting of the planning board is considered a prerequisite for maintenance and membership of the planning board. I think that that should be in the ordinance. Personally, I feel like the enumerated number of absences and any additions to the excused or unexcused definitions that we decide we want to make should be in the board's rules and procedures. The only reason I say that is because I feel like the automatic nature might be something we want to reconsider under a special circumstance if a member is having an issue that is not technically excused, but we agree is acceptable. So that would be my only addition to the comments that everybody else has made.
I like that as well.
I don't see a lot of heads on it, so we'll move ahead with that. Did you get that?
So essentially you wanted to say faithful attendance, in parentheses, as defined in the Town of Ducks rules of procedure.
Right.
Planning board
yeah.
rules of procedure, parentheses,
Yeah.
at the meetings of the planning board is considered prerequisite. Blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
If that works for everybody, then.
Yep. Does that work for you?
No, is that the end of it?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
Is that the end of it? I mean, there's more to come, right?
No.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just repeating what NAG's has said, and there it says faithful attendance, in parentheses, as defined, and I'm rephrasing this, in the Town of Ducks planning board rules of procedure, parentheses. So faithful attendance at the meetings of the planning board is considered a prerequisite for the maintenance of membership on the planning board.
Right.
Then the rules of procedure, as Mark is suggesting, would speak to
Oh, okay. Yeah.
the appropriate or inappropriate absences.
Okay.
Similar. That's the way it's defined, but it's not
Automatic.
a hard automatic line.
Yep.
Okay.
Because then we'd still have to vote to recommend to council to replace a member. And in that way, we can evaluate some sort of extenuating circumstance that we or the School of Government has not thought of yet.
And just for the record, we've been incorporated for 20 years. And I can think of one member who came close to being reported as a potential candidate for removal.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, because I was here too.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen
Been
very
here
often.
almost 20 years, and it's never been a problem.
Mark, do you want to see if the other board members are in agreement with your
Yeah,
suggestion?
I mean, there was head nodding, but no one said,
I agree with you, yes. I think that we should have it as faithful attendance and leave it as discretionary for the board to decide on our own if we've got, kind of compliance or we've got an issue to deal with on a one-by-one situation.
and then the other, I mean, I'll just try and summarize, Sandy, if you're, does everybody else feel that one? Sure. Good with that? James?
I'd like to see something more concrete. I think leaving it to make a decision as to whether we should move on Joe, and then a year later, we should move on Bob, and I'd like to see something, some standards established.
I'm proposing that, but I'm proposing that it be in our rules
Oh, that's fine.
and not the ordinance.
That's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Allowing it to be discretionary for us as a board.
But I'm saying that's the part that bothers me, the discretionary part. I want the same standard to apply to everybody and not feeling sorry for you because of your situation and feeling sorry for, I want the standard to be applicable to everybody.
Well, and I think it would be, but if we had it in the rule of procedures, that is in an internal document, is that correct?
Yes.
So that we, as the planning board, would be able to say, okay, you can still, maybe James, you're sick, but you're able to participate, you're maybe not here as much as you would like to be, but you are still a valuable asset. And we're gonna say, you're getting better, we're gonna leave this alone, we're not trying to kick you off the board because of your illness. And that would be the same rule of guidelines, the 2 or 3, whatever we come up with when we get to that wording of it. And that would be the guideline everybody has to evaluate. I don't know, what do you think?
I'm good with leaving it to the board to make the decision, but I want the decision to be something we can apply the same rule to everybody. Not because we felt sorry for you and didn't feel sorry for Mark, and because of whatever the situation is.
How do you think, how could we define that?
Illness, and if you miss 2 meetings, yeah.
Who, I don't know.
So-
Whatever the number is.
Yeah, I think that's something we should kind of figure out on our, kind of mull it over. and
Read
come back
Nag's
and
Head.
forth with next meeting.
Nag's Head rules of
Nags,
That's a big deal,
Okay.
yeah.
well, Sandy's suggesting that we look at Nags Head's rules because they go into some detail, and we could, if we like them, what page of the Nags Head?
It's page 4 of their rules of procedure.
Okay, absences, members' absences are limited to 2 consecutive regularly scheduled meetings unless excused by the chair, or 3 total unexcused meetings per year. The town governing board may remove any member of any town established board committee.
See, that's got clarity, that's clear, and.
No, it's not, because it says that I have to
No,
decide.
but then the next step.
It's not clear at all.
I said earlier, we need to define what is an excused absence.
We don't, because the state already does it.
I don't have a problem with putting some standards in there, but I'd also feel like, as a board, it's our job to decide vague things like, is this consistent with the land use plan? And I think that we also might sometimes have to decide, is the issue that the board member is having or claiming to have a legitimate issue in our eyes or not? And more importantly, I think what Bryn pointed out is it a temporary but longer than 3 meeting issue of a 3-year term of an otherwise faithful attendee and board member? That, to me, the duration of whatever the issue is not dealt with in any of these rules, and I have no idea how to deal with that.
I mean, you could have a situation where Ms. Gordon explained she had a tornado that came through her house, and if she was on the board, wasn't able to come to that meeting, and the next meeting, she's still trying to get her house in order, and that's 2 meetings.
Sure.
That may or may not be excused in your eyes. It depends. I mean, so I think allowing some flexibility or having a standard, but having the ability to have some discretion. That's why you have rules of procedure versus an ordinance.
Right. That was my only reason for putting in the rules and procedures, because then the other option would be just to not vote on it.
If it's in, just as a matter of procedure, if it's in the rules of procedure, you as a board would have to take action, discuss it, and make a recommendation to the council to remove a member. So you would have the opportunity to discuss the merits of the absence.
I feel like we're going to end up having to, I mean, we haven't in 20 years had to, but it could come up.
So, one other thing I'd like to add, if I could. We are assuming that faithful attendance is physical and in-person attendance. I mean, we discuss as if that's what we are, well, and so is there a requirement for attendance to be in person?
Yes, there is now. There was a period during COVID where the state adopted special provisions that allowed members to participate remotely. That expired a year and a half ago. So that is no longer an option for the board. Now, if you know you're not going to be at a meeting, you could submit comments to your fellow board members ahead of time, but you cannot participate as a voting member remotely. You have to be here physically.
Okay, so that's by state statute.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So in summary, we're going to revisit attendance, and we've given you some background on that. I guess at a future meeting, we'll discuss the specifics more of how we're going to incorporate that in the rules. Do we want to see a draft from staff based on any one of the existing town policies that we can see in an email and pick apart a little bit?
I don't know about an email, but
I
I
was,
think that's helpful. What I did was there was some issues that I looked at, and I looked at the specific ones. And Manio has 2 consecutive meetings. Nags Head has 2 consecutive meetings and 3 total in a year. And there was one of the other ones, too, that I didn't notice.
I would like to mention that that's ambiguous also, because that could be a 12-month
Bren.
rolling year, or, I'm sorry, that could be ambiguous because that could be a 12-month rolling year or an actual calendar year also.
Okay.
So
whatever we do, our wording should be from May to May.
Yeah, I was assuming the year of appointment.
oh,
But, yeah.
okay.
Years of, yeah.
So what if we use language similar to Nag's Head, but we take all these municipalities and put it in a spreadsheet so it's easier for you to read?
Oh, yeah, and then we can just check an X. Yeah, in our, I like that, that's better. It's beautiful. We get and vote on each cell. Please make the packet thin that night. Okay, and then let's just make sure that we're summarizing. So it was attendance. What were the other
The
issues?
oath of office.
Oath of office.
The oath of office, which is apparently at
State,
another.
we might have handled that.
check on that and confirm that.
Yeah,
And I think there were 2 towns that have oath of office in their procedures. I know it was one, and I didn't write down which
Yeah,
one,
it's it.
but I think it was 2 that I looked at that had oath of office.
and then are those the only issues we want to revisit, or did we have additional?
There was reference to the issue of the chair being permitted to make a motion versus not making a motion.
I think that James mentioned that that's dealt with in Robert's rules.
Yeah, I think we ought to minimize it. I don't think we ought to outlaw it, but I think just minimize it. As long as the chair has it under.
I got my hands full just reading the paper. That's plenty of responsibility. You guys can make a motion.
I don't think it ought to be outlawed, but
I think we actually voted on motion two that you made tonight.
No, I just said it, and then Joe faithfully chimed in. So moved.
Okay.
Yes,
So moved.
yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? Nope. Staff, do you need any additional information from us on that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, then we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Any necessary corrections? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion the minutes.
I second it.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Minutes approved as written. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? No, it was unanimous. Was it? James?
yes,
Did you say aye? Okay.
yes.
All right then, staff comments.
All right, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple items that the council dealt with at their meeting last week that may be of interest to the board. First of all, they did approve us to enter into contract with VHB for 2 different projects. One of them is to conduct a feasibility study for a shared use path on the west side of Duck Road, south of Aqua, all the way to the line. So this would be an initial feasibility study that would look at things like utilities, the necessity for a retaining wall, tree removal, general location of the path to see if any easements will be necessary. So general things like that. And then they also authorized the town manager to enter into a contract for the final design and permitting of our shoreline stabilization project out here along the entirety of the town park property. So that would be a system of sills that would help protect the town property from further erosion. So that would include final design, permitting, and developing the bid documents. The project would not be constructed during this upcoming budget year, but in 24-25. Okay, so when it would get us to that stage where we could bid the project. So those were both approved. And then we had a presentation on that provide an update. You all have copies. Melissa handed them out ahead of time. The 7-page document there that lists all of the projects that we're including in our resiliency plan under that RCCP grant. So there are structural projects that are things that we built, and there are non-structural, which are things that are studies or planning documents. So we gave you a comprehensive list of all those things so that you're aware. There are a total of 15 things. And we hope that over the next decade, we'll have the opportunity to see movement on a lot of those things. So those are also available online on the town's website. And then finally, we did have a, approval of the council to move forward with zoning, they already have those. I'm sorry. We handed those. What else do you have? Yeah, I'm sorry, I put it there. Yeah. It's a one-page document, but it should be on the top,
This is
yeah.
memorandum.
This one?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Did you already get a report too?
What report?
Yeah.
No. Well, they had that before, I think. I'm sorry. But anyway, we had a list of text amendments that we collect. These are issues that have come up for us as a staff mainly. And we present it every now and then. We compile them and present them to the council to get their authorization to work with you and the town attorney on solutions to some of these issues. So we wanted to give you that so that you're aware of some of these things that will be coming up, so you won't have any empty meetings coming up. We've enough there to last us for a number of months. So just so you're aware of those things.
Great.
And that's all I had. I will let Sandy Cross present you with some information, just updating you on projects in the town.
Right now, we don't really have anything going on in particular, but we are waiting on, we had a bid opening for the brick project, which is the NC-12 resiliency, road raising, living shoreline. That opened on Tuesday. We did not have any bidders. That was anticipated because we had a mandatory pre-bid meeting a few weeks back, and only 2 contractors showed. North Carolina law requires that you have 3 bidders at your first opening. If you don't, then you need to rebid it, and once you rebid it, you do not need 3 proposals. So we anticipate rebidding that on Sunday, and we'll have a bid opening on July 11th. We are anticipating two bidders at this point. Once that's done, we'll be rocking and rolling, moving forward, trying to get that road raised and protecting our shoreline. We also, the town council did adopt their budget, correct? Yeah. So we have a couple retaining wall projects that'll be coming down the pipe. One just north of Plover Drive. That retaining wall will be replaced this year. And we also have a trail improvement planned from the south end of town to just north of Ocean Crest, where they have like a 3-foot wide concrete sidewalk that goes up a large hill, and there's a cattle rail. It's a dangerous situation. Ocean Crest agreed with us this past year to basically allow us to redevelop that area. And so we'll be lowering the hill, putting in a retaining wall, so it'll be a flat ADA accessible trail. That will require some easements, and will hopefully include some stormwater improvements that will hopefully mitigate some of the stormwater that occurs across the street. So we'll be working on those projects, as well as some other stormwater improvements, probably at Wee Winks, where the sidewalk has essentially created some flooding areas. So we're going to work on doing a little storm drain that will mitigate some of that standing water in front of Wee Winks. Am I missing anything? They're the main things. And we did get another conditional use permit application in today. It is lacking a lot of documentation, but it was paid for, so there's a good probability that you'll see an amendment to the Blue Points conditional use permit next month. So my expectation is they're going to ask for allowance to keep their sidewalls on their back bar, which is not permitted right now. More details to follow.
Thank you. Sandy Whitman has told me that he has a comment, and then,
I just want to let you know that I will probably not be here for the July meeting.
you're fired.
Will
We'll
that be-
discuss
will-
it, Sandy, and
will that
decide if
be-
it's excused or not. Will council be sending another offering, or? Okay. Any board comments?
I have none, thank you.
About him not being
No, about him, yeah. Does anyone have a comment about Sandy's absence? Okay.
Is there any movement at all on the Resort Realty property?
My understanding is that has been put on hold. I guess there's a lot of factors that have come into play. The delay in getting approval, the cost of labor and lumber has all increased exponentially. Word from the anticipated general contractor this past week was not happening right now.
Good. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, we're adjourned. There we go.